Welcome to the explainer. Imagine trying to keep a controlled explosion going inside a metal tube that's flying so incredibly fast, the friction from the air alone threatens to melt the whole shebang into slag. Well, that's the reality of hypersonic flight. Today, we're unpacking an absolute monster of an engineering achievement and breaking down exactly how scientists and engineers are turning this sci-fi concept into a concrete reality. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. 1,200. That is the exact number of seconds that India's Defense Research and Development Laboratory just successfully ran a Scramjet combustor. Now, 1,200 seconds, that's 20 minutes. In our day-to-day lives, 20 minutes is just a quick coffee break. But in the ultra-extreme, violently hostile environment of hypersonic aerodynamics, sustaining a burn for 20 minutes isn't just a long time. In this environment, it's practically an eternity. It is a massive, massive milestone.
So here's our flight plan for today. 1. The hypersonic speed barrier. 2. How scramjets actually work. 3. India's 20-minute breakthrough. 4. The active cooling solution. 5. India's hypersonic timeline. And finally, 6. The global hypersonic race. Moving right along to Section 1, the hypersonic speed barrier and what we call the 2,000-degree problem. Because, look, before you can even think about building a hypersonic engine, you have to respect the physical laws that are actively trying to destroy it. The entry fee for the Hypersonic Club is exceeding Mach 5. That's over 6,100 kilometers per hour. To put that into perspective, that is fast enough to fly from New York to LA in about 40 minutes. But the consequence of that insane speed is extreme aerodynamic heating. Pushing through the atmosphere at Mach 5 creates so much friction, the temperatures quickly push past 2,000 degrees Celsius. That's hot enough to literally melt standard steel. Managing this intense heat has long been the central obstacle separating a cool laboratory demonstration from a true operationalized system. Simply put, if you can't beat the heat, your engine melts, period. Which brings us to Section 2, how scramjets actually work, or supersonic airflow combustion. To survive that kind of heat and fly that fast, traditional jet engines just aren't going to cut it. You need a completely different beast, this scramjet. So what is it? A scramjet is an air-breathing engine where combustion happens at supersonic airflow speeds. So the crucial point here is this. Because the air is rushing through the engine faster than the speed of sound, the system has only milliseconds, literally fractions of a blink of an eye, to inject the fuel, mix it perfectly with that supersonic air, and ignite it. The classic engineering analogy for this, and it's a great one, is that it's like trying to light a match in a hurricane. And not just light it, right? But keep it burning steadily while the hurricane tries to blow it out and melt the matchstick at the exact same time. It requires absolute pinpoint precision in fluid dynamics and chemistry. All right, Section 3, India's 20-minute breakthrough, the 1,200-second mark. So in May of 2026, India's defense research arm, the DRDO, conducted this test at their Scramjet Connect pipe test facility in Hyderabad. Now, keep in mind, this wasn't just a computer simulation or some tiny miniature model. No, this was a full-scale, actively cooled scramjet combustor. And, as we established at the top of the explainer, they kept that supersonic combustion hurricane burning for over 1,200 seconds without the whole system ripping itself apart or melting down into a puddle. And the magnitude of this test wasn't understated by the officials involved either. A government statement noted, quote, "This successful test marks a major milestone in India's pursuit of advanced aerospace and hypersonic technologies," unquote. This is a definitive signal that the foundational hurdle of sustained hypersonic propulsion is really being cleared. Now for Section 4, the active cooling solution and preventing structural failure. And this brilliantly illustrates how you actually solve that 2,000-degree problem we talked about. Instead of just trying to, build thicker walls, you use the fuel itself as your coolant. It's genius. Here's how it works. Step 1. They use a specially developed liquid hydrocarbon endothermic fuel. Endothermic basically just means it absorbs heat. Step 2. Before this fuel is injected to burn, it's actively circulated through tiny channels built directly into the combustor walls. And Step 3, by absorbing that extreme aerodynamic heat from the walls, the fuel cools the engine down, preventing structural failure, and then it gets injected and burned. So the fuel essentially protects the engine before it actually powers it.
But active cooling doesn't work in a vacuum. There's a whole supporting cast of technologies required here. That endothermic fuel? Entirely indigenously developed, meaning fully homegrown right there in India. They also had to apply highly specialized, high-temperature thermal barrier coatings to the metals and utilize advanced manufacturing techniques just to create those intricate cooling channels inside the combustor walls in the first place. It's a massive undertaking. Let's look at Section 5, India's hypersonic timeline, exponential engineering progress. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is just the sheer velocity of this progress. In January 2025, they managed a 120-second combustor run. Barely 3 months later, in April, they hit a 1,000-plus second run on a subscale model. By January 2026, they scaled that up to a 12-minute full-scale run. And now, May 2026, a full 1,200 seconds on a full-scale rig. I mean, this isn't linear progress. This is an exponential acceleration in capability over roughly 16 months. But you have to remember, that sudden acceleration was built on years of trial and error. India's hypersonic journey really gained momentum back in August 2016 with a twin Scramjet test by India's space agency ISRO. There were definitely setbacks along the way, like an unsuccessful attempt by DRDO in June 2019. But they clearly learned from that failure, which led to a massive breakthrough in September 2020 when a Scramjet-powered vehicle achieved Mach 6 flight for about 20 seconds. And that 20-second flight, that laid the essential groundwork for the 20-minute static tests we're seeing today. Let's move to Section 6 and see how this builds into the broader picture, the global hypersonic race, and where major powers stand. Hypersonic technology is widely considered the absolute next frontier in global defense, and the landscape right now is incredibly active. Just looking at the table here, according to the source reporting, Russia's Zircon system is already reported to be in operational service. China has demonstrated capabilities in both hypersonic glide vehicles and cruise missiles. Over in the United States, they're continuing to aggressively pursue air-breathing hypersonic programs, having conducted a second successful flight of a recoverable hypersonic DEST vehicle in March of 2025. And now, India joins this highly exclusive cutting-edge tier, cementing its status with this 1,200-second Scramjet endurance test. Which leaves us with a critical thing to ponder as we wrap up. We've seen today how incredibly difficult it is to build an engine that operates at Mach 5, to light that match in a hurricane and keep it burning for 20 minutes without melting the very metals holding it. Yet, the timelines of engineering progress are accelerating worldwide. As these technological leaps become more and more frequent, what does this massive hypersonic leap mean for the future of global defense? It's a question the whole world is racing to answer. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and as always, keep questioning the world around you.